We're just a few days from Christmas. Another year has come and gone. Where do they go to? Well, I can tell you where they go to. They go that way, and they go that way at a rate of knots. If you're young and in your 20s or in your 30s and you're plodding through life, make the most of it, because as each year passes, the years seem to go quicker. It's true. I never used to believe it, but I can testify to it now. And being a YouTuber and being Christmas and near the New Year and the end of one year and the beginning of another, it's time for one of those look back videos, and this one is butterflies. And I'll warn you now, I won't be in this state by the end of the forthcoming video. I might have had a drink or two. Tea's strong stuff, you know. Well, this all seems rather civilised, but it doesn't seem very Christmassy, does it? Something's not right. I need to change. Now that seems a little bit more festive, which is most unlike me. I don't really do the festivities anymore, but I've made an effort for you. And because we're now into the depths of winter, well, we're a day into it now. The shortest day and the day that I really celebrate was yesterday. But because we've got another few months yet of colder weather, maybe even some snow, although none apparently on Christmas Day. This is going to be no white Christmas. But I thought that by now many of you will perhaps have been rather fed up of the rain and the excessive winds that we've had, even without those compulsory Brussels sprouts on Christmas Day. That's yet to come, so Boxing Day is going to be a howler across the UK, no doubt. But I thought it would be nice, as we're getting towards the end of another year, to have a reminder of some of the butterflies that featured on this channel during the course of the last few months. In fact, I've treated myself and gone back to 2023, and that's where our butterfly starts. And the name of the butterfly contains the colour of this jumper in it. Cheers. It's a lovely cup of tea, is that? This is a very common sight this year in the UK. A very welcome sight. It is a sight that can be seen each year, but not in the numbers of 2023. Of course, this is a red admiral feasting on a windfall apple here around a lone apple tree in the middle of Duke's Wood in Nottinghamshire. This one's been enjoying this apple for about 20 minutes now. I know I've made a lot about the number of red admirals certainly passing through Nottinghamshire and in Nottinghamshire the last few weeks, and quite rightly so, because there will never be another year like this for this butterfly, not for at least probably 50 years. High numbers of butterflies such as red admirals in 2023 don't come along very often, and these are, as far as I'm concerned, unprecedented numbers. And when these kind of events happen, it pays to make the most of them and to enjoy them. Next year there might not be hardly any red admirals, just the odd sighting you'll get. But this year it's relatively easy to find dozens. Check your windfall apples, check your stands of ivy along your roadside hedgerows, and you'll inevitably find a number of these taking nectar. Quite a magnificent butterfly, and the underside is absolutely beautiful. The more you look at it, the more it sort of hypnotizes you. It's very different from what's above the wings, although on the underside of the forewings there is just a hint of what's to come. If we get a bit of sunshine, we may well see what's to come. But this is a year to remember for this butterfly. My favourite butterfly. Always loved it. When I was a kid and used to look on the butterfly, I got immense excitement from seeing Red Admiral and would shout out, "Red Admiral, Red Admiral," and try and catch it. Beautiful things. This one is very relaxed and compliant. I like butterflies like this. It would be nice to get a glimpse of the top, the upper side of the wings. There are a number of these around this apple tree. These 7 or 8 all taking in the juices from these overripe and rotting apples. Migration has paused. The weather has been unsuitable for a week now. Still isn't suitable today, far too breezy today. And so it's time to build up those resources. And the resources that these butterflies build up from today's feeding may well take them a couple of 100 further miles south at the first opportunity, or they may take them through the winter. A bit of sun. It'd be nice if those wings would just open just a little bit. I know you know what's coming, and there's a tantalising glimpse. What a tease this butterfly is. Look at that. I never fail to be impressed by these butterflies, and this one is immaculate to the scale. An absolute beauty. We waited nearly 5 minutes for this shot, but I think it's worth that 5-minute wait. It takes some beating sitting by an open coal fire. I don't usually light it this early on in the day, but I thought I'd make an effort seeing as it's Christmas. And I thought I'd make an effort and have another cup of tea too. But I was very pleased with that shot, or that 6 minutes or so of that Red Admiral. Nice that it opened its wings bang on cue. A beautiful butterfly and a nice way to start this video. Our second butterfly was the first one really that got a chance to video in 2024, and it's a species which has always been rather difficult to locate. If you can find an adult, they are hard to follow in flight, and then you can get one to sit still longer than about 5 seconds, then you're in for a treat. And it's the green hairstreak, of which a colony has sprung up not too far from where I am, and that's quite an isolated colony away from the butterflies in more usual range in Nottinghamshire, in the southern part of the county. How many sites are waiting to be discovered for green hairstreak in the northern half of Nottinghamshire? I think 1 or 2. But anyway, it was a butterfly for which I'd always struggled to get any kind of photograph, And that was something that I wanted to alter earlier on in May of this year. It was another breezy day, similar to today, but I ultimately proved successful in my quest. This tea's gone right cold. Green hairstreak in Nottingshire's a butterfly of recent success and recent arrival, really. It's been here for nigh on 20 odd years now, but progress through the county has been relatively slow, and indeed the last few years it's been quite static. It arrived and colonised sites on a number of former pit top sites in the south of the county, and for many years its most northerly distribution in Nottinghamshire went as far as Calverton Colliery. But last year it was reported here at Curtain Brick Quarry. There is a footpath that goes directly through this quarry, and this is my first visit today in the hope of finding one of these despite such a breezy day, and getting a couple of photographs, because this is a butterfly that I've struggled in the few times that I've seen this species to get a decent photograph of, and one that I'm happy with. I never thought that I would get one to sit still long enough. The butterfly sitting still, it's just the ash that's moving. Such a windy day today, but I'm very pleased with the footage that I've got so far. It's a cracking little butterfly, and one that is easily missed. I think this occurs at a number of sites that we don't yet know about in Nottinghamshire, and you could walk past this butterfly and not see it in flight. What a cracking little thing. An absolute beauty, with those more or less iridescent green scales on the underside. This is the longest I've ever seen one sit still. Well, this fire is well and truly in now and is building up, and hopefully the butterfly in our next little clip is another species which will build up during the course of 2025. I think it will do. The doom and gloom merchants have been out for a couple of years regarding the small tortoiseshell, but it's a species which has declined and then had upturns in fortunes over a number of years. Although the decline in the last few years has probably been unprecedented, and that's due to the fact that the butterflies obviously suffered through the Great British weather, but also a range of parasites which are now affecting it. I think it's going to bounce back more in 2025, and it already had showed signs of bouncing back by the end of the flight season earlier this year. Small tortoiseshell was once considered so common, so ridiculously common, no one ever gave it a second glance. Maybe now they will do. It's a beautiful butterfly, and one which I don't think we still appreciate. Time for another drink. I don't think anybody noticed. We're now pretty much in the height of the Great British summer. We're approaching the end of June and approaching it very quickly. It's been such a funny year that it doesn't seem as though the year's even got going. And many invertebrates, especially butterflies, have struggled this year and continue to struggle. But for many species, that struggle has been since the wet weather that we've had over winter and the extremely wet spring we had this year. For this chap, it's a bit longer than that. It's hard to believe that The common nature of this butterfly meant that everybody knew it, although for some reason people often referred to this as red admiral. Oh, I've seen a red admiral today, and then they describe it. Nothing like a red admiral, but I don't know whether that was just a local thing, but it seemed to stick with most of my relatives. They used to call this the red admiral, but of course it's a small tortoiseshell. And it's a butterfly with a very interesting, although rather worrying, recent history. When I was growing up, this butterfly was everywhere, and it was everywhere in good numbers. Buddleias would be full of this species and other nymphalids too. However, the last few years, this butterfly has shown a dramatic decline, so much so that the butterfly press have put out numerous press releases, as usual, portraying doom and gloom regarding this species. And it's certainly under pressure from a number of factors, and most of those factors seem to be parasitisation. I think it's about as low as it's going to get, and that over the next couple of years we're going to see a steady increase. It's happened before. We had good numbers and the butterfly reached a peak in the early 2010s. But then there was a steady decline in both numbers and the number of sightings, and those include not only my own but also those reported to the county recorder. And between 2015 and 2018, small tortoiseshell numbers dropped and continued to drop. It was a very slow decline from 2015. 2018 was one of the worst records for this butterfly here in Nottinghamshire, but there was a slight increase in 2019. It really is an absolutely stunning butterfly. I've reared, or tried to rear, 8 larvae that I took. Finding larvae was unusually difficult. Normally small tortoiseshell larvae, you'll see them on most patches and nettle beds, but I struggled to find any. In fact, I struggled and only had a handful of sightings of adults all year up until very recently. But after finding the larvae, I took some home, and the success of those larvae has been incredibly mixed. Out of the 8 that I took, I've lost 5 to parasitisation and disease, and only 3 butterflies have made it to adult. It's just such a shame that such a common butterfly, it's another one of those species that suffers from commonitis, the disease of being beautiful yet common. Does anybody really ever look at one of these beautiful butterflies? Because they are absolutely stunning butterflies. You couldn't ask for a more colourful species than this, but just the pure fact that it's such a common species, nobody ever really looks at it, which is a shame because it deserves to be looked at rather than overlooked. A beautiful, once common butterfly that at the moment is at something of a low ebb in terms of population numbers. But without doubt, this butterfly will make its usual comeback. The fluctuations in numbers from year to year are quite cyclical and occur every so many years. Periods of abundance and periods of decline and low numbers. So I think we can look forward to seeing more of this butterfly, and that it will again retain its common and abundant status in the next few years. Either way, it'll be lovely to see numbers of this butterfly increasing again. If you was a child of the 70s and you looked and collected butterflies, this was your staple diet. A butterfly we all knew. This next butterfly is a particular favourite of mine. I remember collecting a female and obtaining eggs off her at a holiday on the Isle of Wight back in 1979. Little did I think then that within another 40 or so years, said butterfly would be in Nottinghamshire. And indeed it is, and it's increasing in Nottinghamshire. It has been helped in its progress and colonisation in Nottinghamshire, but that's no bad thing in my mind. It's not detrimental in any way. No butterfly species is. I'm talking about the marbled white, a butterfly that was reintroduced in a couple of locations by Martin White, but Martin White wasn't the only person responsible, although it seems he always took the flak. However, he's left us with a remarkable legacy of marbled whites being in good numbers at many sites, and 2024 proved to be another good year for the marbled white. There were good numbers, and personally, I've had it in better numbers than ringlet and meadow brown at a site only 500 or 600 yards from where I'm sat now. Thing is, if I was to go there now, there would be no marbled whites, at least not in the adult form, and of course there wouldn't be a nice cup of tea. I'm sure it's evaporating. And so, we're looking back now at a visit I made to Hills and Holes at Market Walsop a few months ago, July I think it was, and I was treated to brilliant close views of an absolutely beautiful brown. It doesn't always happen that the underside of a butterfly is every bit as colourful and as beautifully marked as the upper side, but in the marbled white here, it's something that is very true. Although called a marbled white, this butterfly actually is more akin to ringlets and meadow browns and gatekeepers, because it used to be in the family known as Satyridae, or the browns. And at first glance you may well have thought that this belonged more to green-veined white and large white and small white, but no, this is one of the browns, although the Satyridae family has now been lumped, I believe, into the Nymphalidae family. But there's no getting away that this is a very attractive butterfly, and it's a butterfly with a rather contentious story in Nottinghamshire, because it was the subject of a release many years ago. That release was by Martin White, at one time notorious butterfly releaser, but also a fabulous breeder. I had much respect for Martin White and how we could do with his skills and knowledge today, when rather absurdly we seem to be going in the way of releasing butterflies back into the wild in much the same manner as Martin did. Only Martin got vilified and ridiculed and was literally hated by many people in the butterflying establishment for the releases of butterflies. His work, though, was quite remarkable, and if anyone's ever tried to breed butterflies, you'll realise how remarkable his work was. Not everybody agreed, or indeed agrees, with the work that he did, and butterfly releases that still continue to this day, but he has made a difference, and he's made a massive difference to the success of the marbled white in Nottinghamshire. It was released many years ago at Portland Park in Kirkby and Ashfield, and has since then gone on to spread to new areas and sites using the old mineral railway lines in western and northwestern Nottinghamshire. In some places this butterfly is now very common, as it is here at Hills and Holes, a beautiful little site just, as I mentioned, within 10 minutes of my front door. We're graced with numbers of these butterflies, and although many people still don't agree with releases of butterflies into the UK, it's rather condoned when those said people still go and view certain species which have been subject of known releases. It's fabulous that we can now see this butterfly here in Nottinghamshire at many places. Wonderful. What a thing to leave behind. rather than nastiness and aggression and hatred. You leave a butterfly, a beautiful butterfly that's beautiful from underneath and from above. The marbled white in my book is a legacy to the sterling and marvellous work of Martin White. Now, in July, apparently, according to my copious notes, we're coming to another butterfly, another favourite of mine and most unusual too. Another butterfly which in the late 60s, early 70s was incredibly rare in Nottinghamshire. And it's the comma. It's a butterfly which had the most dramatic decline probably of any butterfly, but then equally over the next few decades it made the most dramatic of comebacks and is now a very common butterfly throughout Nottinghamshire. You'll get it in your gardens and in any habitat type, but it's especially common on rides and glades of our local woodlands. The comma is a beautiful thing, and it's a butterfly that's as beautiful on the underside as it is from above. And this little clip, only a short clip, was one going back to July of this year when I happened upon this comma, probably recently emerged and getting ready for what was probably its first flight. That's easy for you to say. I think this butterfly, this comma, may well have only recently hatched, and I can tell by how dark it is on the underside that this is not the Hutchinsoni type, which is probably over and done with now as we're about to very quickly enter August. But the Hutchinsoni form of the first brood of commas is the one that mates and produces a second brood, the brood that ultimately overwinters here in the UK, and I think this is an example of that second brood. It's remarkably confiding. I sort of bashed around this bit of bracken. In fact, I didn't see the butterfly at all at first, and not until I was about to just push the bracken out of the way, and there it was sat. There's a hint by that vibration of the butterfly that it's about to go. Oh, this tea is strong. Our last little clip is a Rupal Pempera. A Lurple Pempera. Purple Emperor apparently. I can't remember it. I think someone's put something in my tea, but I'm sure that it was a great day. It's always a good day if you come across a purple emperor. Even better day when you can find a nice cup of tea lurking in front of you. Beautiful. Occasionally, as I've mentioned a number of times on this channel, you get treated to something very special. I think nature puts these kind of moments in front of you as something of a reward for the efforts that you put in. At least that's how I like to think. But although this is a fabulous encounter, it's not an accidental encounter, because This female purple emperor here hatched out of a pupa only a couple of feet above my head 2 or 3 days ago. The more observant of you may well be thinking, oh, what's she still doing here, loitering around here with this bloke stood right at the side of her? Well, the truth is, she can't fly particularly well. Well, from what I've seen, she can't fly at all. But a couple of days ago, Nick and Samantha Brownlee came to check on the pupa of this beautiful butterfly. Pupa that we'd been monitoring for a couple of weeks, anticipating the event of hatching. Nick and Samantha turned up, saw that the pupa was empty, and this lady was sat at the side. All seemed okay, and then it turned out and transpired that there was a wing deformity, and one of the hind wings, it looks as though it's this one here, was in fact twisted over the top of the forewing. With a bit of dexterity and guile, Nick and Samantha managed to get that wing back in place, and indeed it looks perfect, but there is something structurally wrong with the wing, probably at the muscles of the joint there where it joins the thorax, and she can't fly. She can flap the wings a little bit, but any flight tends to be downwards at about a 45-degree angle. Nick and Sam moved her to a place of safety just a few yards away, and then returned again yesterday to have a look for her, and because the weather had been rather inclement for the last couple of days, they were still surprised to see that this purple emperor was still there. They informed me that she was still there, and so this morning, the first opportunity I had, I came up to check, and we had a beautiful, gloriously sunny morning. Absolutely beautiful. It's clouded over now, and the weather is taking a dramatic turn for the worst later on today. But when I got to the location where she wasn't there. Unfortunately, I thought I'm not going to get the chance to film. However, fortune favoured me, and while I was looking for this female rather forlornly, I then came across a group of bird ringers who I know very well, and we've been stood talking for the best part of an hour, and it was while talking to the ringers I suddenly noticed a bit of movement, and walking towards us was this purple emperor. We were all astonished, and it created a great deal of excitement. Facebook may well have a few more photos of purple emperors. We're also able to show this butterfly to some of the Forestry Commission workers that are nearby, and they were equally as thrilled. And I'm also thrilled because I get to do this video. It's a very easy video for me to do. It doesn't take a great deal of work, and while all of us that's seen this butterfly and photographed this butterfly today are all feeling terribly excited and privileged to be able to get so close to such a magnificent butterfly, and there's no doubt about it, the purple emperor really is magnificent. I would still like to get this close to a male purple emperor, but I'm quite happy to have had my second extremely close encounter with the empress herself. And although she can't fly and is ultimately doomed, whether she will survive the bad weather that's to come today, I'll not have no idea. Maybe she could be taken into a place of safety for the night, but she's hardly unlikely to be found by a male. Any attempts to fly, even if we put her into the tops of the nearby trees, she's just going to end up back on the floor and be fodder for some predator. It's just such a shame. Out of all the purple emperor eggs and larvae that Nick and Samantha Brownlee and myself have been monitoring over the past years in Sherwood Forest, the success rate of those that we've found is abysmal. We've lost and continue to lose probably almost 100% of the larvae and eggs that we monitor. The pupa that contained this beautiful butterfly was the only one we knew of. And in the end, it's ultimately going to be unsuccessful. She's not going to find a mate and be able to lay. It's such a shame that the joy of one purple emperor getting through to adult is tinged by the fact that her story is also tinged with ultimate failure. So sad. Such a beautiful butterfly. We're lucky to have this here in Nottinghamshire. They've not been released. It's a northward progression through the country that this butterfly has undergone in the last few years. And yet it still seems to have obstacles put in its way. There's obviously a really good population here for Nick and Samantha Brownlee and myself to record getting on towards 100 eggs, larvae and pupa in the past 3-4 years. The success rate, as I mentioned, is so poor, it's unbelievable. It's very difficult for one of these to get from egg to adult, but there again it is for any insect and butterfly. A fabulous encounter, yet for this empress tinged with a great deal of sadness. The only good thing, or positive thing I can think of, is that several people have had an up close and personal experience and view of one of these butterflies, and that is a positive. It had a positive effect on those people. Maybe this butterfly has passed a message on to those people of how special insects are and butterflies are, and a purple emperor is. I shouldn't sit so near to this fire because it's evaporating my tea. Still, I'll have to drink it before it evaporates even further, I suppose, but I hope people will allow and forgive me putting in some light-hearted, or hopefully light-hearted moments between these clips. Heaven knows we need a bit of laughter and smile in the world today. Such a gloomy, miserable place if you listen to the news, and my advice is don't. But I'd like to wish everybody that's subscribed and still remains subscribed to the Ramblings of an Entomologist channel. Without you, I wouldn't do it. And I'm glad that I do it. And I'd like to wish everybody a happy and holy Christmas. I know for many people it's not been the happiest of years, and some people have had real sadness in their lives this last year. I found personally that's how it often happens. But I hope that everybody has a happier new year in 2025. Something that I'd like to drink to before my tea evaporates. I think I need another cup of tea. Happy Christmas.